Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. This is your United show. This is Devil's Advocate, and today, let's jump on here this Thursday evening to talk about all things Manchester United. As we all know, we are all in silly season at the moment. We're in the transfer window is just about to open. We're in the off season. The European Championships is on, and there's just all things. There's a lot of things going on with Man United, as we do know, like season on, season off. There's always lots going on with this football club. So a lot of things to talk about here this evening on the podcast. Going solo tonight, not joined by any guests here tonight. So just here to come on here again. Lovely Thursday evening. We're close to the bank holiday weekend over here in Ireland. So it's all kind of good vibes. So far, so good today. So said, look, I'll come on, have a chat with you guys and kind of break down kind of a couple of things that have been kind of going on in the football club and kind of the last kind of couple of days and weeks. So I'm going to come to a couple of comments first before I jump into tonight's topics. Paul, our mods in the house, Paul says, hi Keane, hope you're well, mate. I hope all is well, Paul. Hope you're having a good day. Melina, our Arsenal fan, is in the comments. She says, hello, good evening, Melina. Hope you're well. Rory, as always, is in the comments as well. Says, evening, everyone. We also have Victoria's Secrets in the comments, and Victoria's Secret says, evening folks, countdown to the bank holiday weekend here in the Emerald Isle. Absolutely, it's bank holiday weekend. Even though I'm working for it, it's always good to be kind of on a bank holiday. The weather's usually nice in the kind of June bank holiday, so it's all kind of good here. Also, Rory is asking me in the comments if I do need any help in the comments, is let him know. Yeah, look, I will let you know, Rory, if we do need you as a mod. We haven't got any abusive comments in quite some time, so if you are needed, I will pop you a DM and I will make it as a mod on the channel as well. Amy is also in the house as well. Amy is in the house, says, evening, Amy, hope all is well. Victoria's Secrets is loving my 1992 Manchester United jersey here today. As always, go retro and do not give the Glazers any money. But yeah, look, it's Thursday evening. A lot of things going on with Man United at the moment. A lot of transfer news, a lot of like other things outside of transfers, like kind of non-footballing related things that we're going to talk about this evening in terms of United. But the first thing I'd like to talk about is just kind of the news that's been kind of really been hitting in the last kind of 48 hours is the links of Kieran Trippier to Manchester United. Kieran Trippier is obviously former Tottenham Hotspur right back, currently of Atletico Madrid at the moment, and England international, of course, going to the Euros this summer. Very good player. It looks like he's very keen to come to Manchester United, as per reports. Andy Mitten's reporting it. Multiple other sources, the Athletic stuff like that, are reporting it. The mainstream media are reporting this link. My initial thoughts on the Trippier links, I'm not against it. I'll be honest, I'm really not against it. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka could do with some competition at right back. Now, do I make this Trippier sign a priority? I probably don't. I think if we get other areas addressed in the window, such as centre back and defensive midfield and right winger, and we still have funds there, by all means, if you go, I think you kind of throw the money at him then. But it's definitely a signing that we do need in terms of like competition at right back. But there's other areas, I think, in this team that we do need to address before we address the right back position. Because let's say if we only do get 3 signings this summer, I do think centre back, centre defensive midfield, right wing are probably the 3 key signings this summer in terms of really strengthening the team as a whole in terms of first team positions. So I think when you look at the squad, I think the start 11 needs to be strengthened if we're to progress next season. Because it's all well and good finishing second and getting to Europa League final and getting to another semi-final. But to get over the line in them games, we need better players in our first team. So I think when you look at strengthening, I think centre back, centre defensive midfield, and right wing, they're the 3 positions we need to strengthen. And then the 4th signing we obviously need this summer is not even so much a backup right back, but someone to be competition for Wan-Bissaka and maybe even displace him. So I think Trippier, he has a lot of good attributes. Like, he's very good delivery of the ball, and he gets forward, and he's not one-dimensional like Wan-Bissaka is. I think Wan-Bissaka, he's very good at 1v1 defending, but I think after that, Wan-Bissaka is very limited in his game. I think going forward, he has improved from last year, but he's still not probably to the standard of an attacking right back that Man United need in terms of that. Because you look at teams, when teams sit deep against us, they leave Wan-Bissaka have the ball a lot on that right-hand side. So I think there's definitely room for improvement on the right-hand side. And again, I think if you get Jadon Sancho in on the right-hand side, does that improve Wan-Bissaka? Like, I think Wan-Bissaka, if we do get Sancho, doesn't have as much responsibility. So maybe does the importance on a Kieran Trippier signing lessen if Sancho comes in that right-hand side, or Rafinha, or someone like that? Because at the moment, we're not playing with a natural out-and-out right winger out there. And the problem is teams are leaving us have the ball out there because they're all cutting inside. Like, that's what's happening. We're all cutting inside, and it's all very one-dimensional. Or we're popping out to the left wing, and then the obviously opposition teams then are defending very tight and very narrow because they know there's no kind of there's no balance in terms of that. So if you get a natural right winger in there, then I think teams, there's more of a threat in terms of overall play in terms of that. So look, for me, I think Trippier signing could be a good one, but I do prioritise right wing before right back. So I think that could actually solve a few problems in terms of the trajectory of our attacks. It's going to come to a couple of other comments. Victoria's Secrets Salts and Health says Trippier is good going forward, but not great at defending. It seems in the modern game that it's more important for fullbacks to be better at attacking than defending. Yeah, look, the role of a fullback has kind of evolved in the last kind of 10 years or so. You obviously look at like the Dani Alves of the world. Again, he was good at defending, but like his big part of his game when he was at Seville, and then when he moved to Barcelona was his attacking prowess. A right back, and you look like on the left side, like left backs like Marcelo, again another defender who kind of helped revolutionise kind of the attacking fullback. That people can say, Liverpool fans will tell you like Trent Alexander-Arnold does it, but like there's a lot more of attacking fullbacks before Trent obviously got into the Liverpool team. So I think there's massive importance on attacking fullbacks, especially when like wingers these days don't play like natural wingers; they play like more kind of inside forwards. So yeah, I think for fullback positions, there is a big importance. Rory also thinks Trippier would be a good signing. I agree. Like, I think he's definitely a player we can go for, but I think we need to strengthen others before we kind of move to getting right back as a priority. But then again, if the deal's there to be done, and Atletico Madrid are willing to play ball, and there is a reasonable transfer fee there, then if it's an easy deal to get done, you get it done and then move on. But for me personally, centre back, centre defensive field, right wing, go all out there. Go all out for them first. Bits and Bobs also says, "Hey Keane, if you're Sancho, do you come to Man United?" Well, I think Sancho and his team have kind of made really public. They've kind of really leaked it to the media that Man United is their choice. So I think it's common knowledge at the minute that he wants to come to Man United. Now, obviously, if a team like City came in for more Chelsea, is that maybe a better project? That remains to be seen. But I think he's made it very clear, like people who are close to him say that he wants to come to Man United. And like last year, everything was done, but Ed Woodward and Joe Glazer refusing to pay the money for him. So I think Sancho will come to United, and I think it's a deal that can be done this year. And look, if we get him for less money than they did last year, that's all well and good. But he's definitely a player who we massively need at this football club, because right wing is a gaping hole in our starting 11. Rach also says, "Hey all, good evening, Rach. Hope all is well this evening. I hope you had a good day." Rory says in the comments, "Keane, did you see Everest this on Liam and Noel Gallagher?" Yeah, look, I'll be honest about this one. I did see it. Like, look, I found it hilarious at the time. I retweeted it, but really and truly, we can banter him for like a second, but really we lost the European final as well. So we can banter each other back and forth. But look, I wouldn't be like, everyone knows I'm one for bantering rival fans, but they won the league. I can't really banter them when we finished second behind them. Obviously, like, look, we had an okay season domestically, but Ever's banter was good, but I wouldn't go over the top with it because, we still have to build. So, I wouldn't really go over the top of it. But the video was hilarious. Not gonna lie, I did laugh. Like, Patrice Evra is absolutely hilarious. Like, he's a very kind of, positive person, and his videos, like, they always would cheer you up. So look, by all means, very funny video. But I wouldn't be slagging City off too much because how good they've been this season. So I think there's room for improvement, I think, on our side as well. So I think it's all well and good slagging them, but we do need to kind of move on and concentrate on ourselves rather than any other club at the moment, because there is obviously still kind of a lot to move forward and kind of move on next season and hopefully improve. But in terms of the Trippier transfer, just before I move on to the next topic, is the likelihood, in my opinion, that this transfer happens. At the moment, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10. At the moment, I give it 4 out of 10 because I think United, we will prioritise other positions. I think Sancho would be more likely in Trippier. But again, I take him if he's available. I take him because when you look at teams that sit deep, Armand Bissaka, he doesn't have that extra edge. And like, we always play out to the left, or we try to play through Bruno. At least if you've Sancho and Trippier out on the right hand side, there's a lot more balance in that right hand side, and there's a lot more flair. Like, Wan-Bissaka can be very useful in the big games as well next year. Like, I think people say that who don't want Trippier, I'll put this to you. Look at the years. Look at teams like Manchester City. Right back, they have Cancelo and Walker. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea have Reece James, Azpilicueta. Tottenham, I know they're not great, but they have Matt Doherty, they have Serge Aurier, right backs who can push each other. So like, any successful team, like even Leicester, they have Ricardo Pereira actually and James Justin for their right back positions. So if we do sign Trippier, it's not the end of the world for Wan-Bissaka, because you have different right backs with different situations in different games. So you're going to need to be adaptable. You need competition for places. Like, people talk about the Man United way. Like, the Man United way is you have competition for places in every single position on the pitch. No one's guaranteed to be a guaranteed starter. So people really want to be holding the club up to high standards, then practice what you preach. Like, if you want the best in class, you get the best in class in each position. 100%. So, I think Trippier is a good signing if we get him. But I think, again, we need to get the spine. We need to get the spine, defensive midfield, centre back, and then the right wing. They're definitely we're definitely in a better place in that regard. But I'd like to move on to outside of the kind of transfer business for a minute. I kind of want to look at the obviously big news. We all know it's been kind of leading up in the last couple of weeks, is the Manchester United Supporters Trust meeting tomorrow. Joe Glazer and co are meeting with the Manchester United Supporters Trust tomorrow. Now, for me, I don't know what way this is going to go. Like, we all know how all of us fans, we feel about the Glazer ownership, and kind of how we all feel in terms of what we want in terms of getting them out. Like, that's common goal, that's common knowledge. We want to get the Glazers out, but the Manchester United Supporters Trust as well, I think they're not going to take it lying down tomorrow. I just hope tomorrow they do pose the hard questions to the Glazers, and they've laid out a criteria of what they want from the Glazers in terms of the way they want the football club to run and kind of giving fan representation on the board. So I hope there can be transparency tomorrow from the Glazers, and also transparency from us. Like, look, I think we have to be obviously transparent on our side, which I know our Muster, they do very good work. I know they'll definitely have a lot of good plans in place tomorrow to kind of hopefully have communication with the Glazers. But when you look at it, what type of, like, in my mind, I've been thinking all day with kind of this meeting that's going to happen tomorrow. Like, how much PR bullshit are we going to get from the Glazers to must though tomorrow? Like, I think they're going to say they're going to have fan representation on the board. Like, we all love that. I think a lot of season ticket holders, if they could get some deciding says on things that happen at the club, I think that'd be great. I think you look at communication. I think the Glazers need to be a lot better. Like, they haven't communicated in 16 years. Tomorrow obviously could be a step for them to do that. Do I trust them? Hell no, I don't. I don't trust the Glazers to even bat an eyelid. Like, the meeting's over Zoom tomorrow. Like, it's very easy to go on a camera and say you're going to do this, you're going to do that, but will they actually lay out a specific plan to us? Because we've heard this before. Like, we've heard this when the Glazers say, like Joe and Ed Woodward, we've heard that things such as we can only do things in a transfer window that other clubs can only wish to do. That was a crock of shit. They said they're going to repair the stadium years ago. Crock of shit. Old Trafford's falling apart. Fucking roof is leaking. Doors are boarded up. The other side of Old Trafford by the railway, that's boarded up. It fucking looks like a council estate. And that's no disrespect to anyone who lives in somewhere in the council estate, but it looks like somewhere where it's abandoned. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you look at these things. The Glazers in 16 years have really delivered empty promises, and that's on the minimal communication they've had with the fans and with the football club in that 16-year time frame. Like, this is where what worries me is that when the Glazers are going to try to be communicative tomorrow, and they're going to try develop a relationship with the Manchester United supporters, trust the Manchester United fans as a whole. Like, do I see that happening? I absolutely don't. Like, Victoria's Secret says here in the comments, like, actions speak louder than words when it comes to the Glazers. I absolutely agree. Like, they're not going to. I don't feel that they're going to deliver on what they say tomorrow. I feel like there's going to be a lot of PR propaganda bullshit tomorrow, if I be brutally honest, and I don't like swearing, but like, for me, it's just not feasible for them to deliver because they never have. And why would they change their, like, it's not that I'm being a Glazer apologist here, because I'm not. I fucking hate the bastards. Like, look, I've been Glazers out since they took over. Like, even as a young child, I've been told everything what these bastards have been doing. I grew up when they were lumping football club onto, like, this, lumping debt into this football club. But here's the thing. When you look at the way they're operating the club and the way they're taking money out and taking their dividends, why would they, at this moment in time, without the sponsors being hurt, why would they change the operation of the club? That's the thing. Can they be trusted to do it? They won't. You look any time they've had a chance to speak in the media, they haven't done it. Like, they haven't done it. Like, they've had opportunities to do this. They haven't. And they haven't endeared themselves to our fans. So why at this moment in time now do we think that's going to change? I simply don't. They can go into this meeting tomorrow and try being transparent. And I hope that they can do something and maybe even outline plans to sell the club. That, like, for me, that'd be the ideal outcome for me tomorrow. If they went into the meeting with the Manchester United Supporters Trust tomorrow and they say, right, look, we're going to sell the club in X amount of days, in X amount of day. That like, for me, if Joe Glazers, like, I know he's not going to walk into the meeting tomorrow where all the Supporters Trust will be tomorrow, but imagine they just went on there tomorrow and said, look, we'll jump on Zoom. We're going to sell the club at the end of the season, or we're working on a deal to sell the club. I think, look, for all of us, that's the ideal outcome, but we don't live in an ideal world. I think that's a big problem. But am I positive that anything's going to happen in this meeting tomorrow? No. I know from our side, the fans' side, I trust that the Supporters Trust will pose the hard questions to the Glazers. I know they will put out a criteria for the Glazers as to what we want as fans. It's already been laid out, but I dare to say that will be modified in some way, shape, or form. I know that we will want them to show ambition, and we'll have an expectancy from them in terms of what we want. But they, like the Glazers, won't deliver that the other end. If they haven't done it in 16 years, they're not going to do it now. And it's a shame. It really is. If you look at the way other football clubs are being run in terms of their owners having relationships with the club and the fans. Like you look at the way Leicester are being run. That's a well-run football club. From the owners to the directors to the coaching staff to the players, it's a very well tight-knit club. Their recruitment is fantastic. They've best in class in facilities. You look at Man United, the stadium's falling apart. There's not even a proper training ground for the women's team. Like Casey Stoney left because of that. You look at the issue of the swimming pool, even like something even as minimal as that. The first team players have complained about the swimming pool not being repaired, and they're only doing it now because all the players are gone. Like all these little things, right? You look at this from a perspective, like if the Glazers aren't making like strides to do these little things that are minimal cost compared to what they're pulling out of the club with dividends and like all the kind of lumping loans on and all that stuff. What makes anyone think that if they're not repairing simple little things like doors and swimming pools and stuff like that, why in God's name does anyone think that this is going to change just because of a meeting tomorrow? I don't. I don't have any confidence that they're going to make any effort to build a relationship with the fans. Ideally, we just want them to sell up. Clear off the debt, sell the football club and fuck off. Like that's the ideal scenario for all of us. There's some fans in this like fan base who think getting Ollie out is going to fix all the problems. I can tell you this now, guys. I can tell you this straight out now. The manager, yes, in-game management and things like that might be a problem, and tactically sometimes he might get it wrong. I'll admit that straight out to you. But people think that getting rid of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to fix the issues of this football club. You're living on cloud cuckoo land. I can tell you that straight away. You're living on cloud cuckoo land if you think that a simple change of manager is going to propel Man United to being a juggernaut in world football again. You're sadly mistaken. Like you're sadly mistaken. I'm sorry, I respect opinions and all that, and I'm all for people giving their opinions. But people think just getting rid of Solskjaer is going to fix the issues we have this football club here. They're very much wrong. You're incorrect. But at the same time, look, I can understand why sometimes people might have their reservations over the manager. Look, I'm not going to, I suppose, get political with people on that. But if people don't think that the Glazers aren't the biggest problem, then look, you need to give your heads a wobble, lads. Go down to the doctors, get a brain scan. Seriously. But look, I think it'd be interesting tomorrow when the press release comes out, when the minutes of the meeting do get released tomorrow, or if they do get released. Now, knowing me and knowing the people I know, if they're not fully released, I will make sure that I do get some scoop from that meeting tomorrow. Because, look, we all need it. We all need to know the finances of this football club. And anyone who is a Man United fan should be waiting on what information comes out tomorrow. But I think half these fans who want the Glazers out probably don't know when the meeting is. They probably don't even know who Joe Glazer is. But they tweet hashtag Ollie out. But look, again, the mind boggles. But enough about the Glazers anyway. We all know, look, they're venomous bastards and they're poison. That's what they are. And I think we could be stuck with them for quite a long time yet, which is a shame because there's a lot of things wrong with the football club. And with a different owner, they can be fixed very quickly. I think like the most positive thing I feel about the football club at the minute is our academy. and the recruitment in the academy and the way the academy is being run. The academy has been run like best in class. You look at the talent that's coming out there at the moment. Like, that's a positive to take out the football club. But it's probably one that positive out of the many negatives in terms of the way it's been ran. I think the first team have done quite well this season. Like, to get second place when you're like the fourth best team, best squad in the league, and be unbeaten away from home, that's very good. It's a very good season. It's not great, but it's very good. Yes, we lost the final. Look, it's a shame. We should have won that game. We've a better football team than Villarreal, but just because you have a better 11 players doesn't mean you're going to win a game of football. Sometimes things don't go your way, and that's just football. That's the way it goes. But I think you have to look at it and say, barring the Europa League final, it was a very good season. Like, we were one missed penalty away from people saying United are going to challenge next year. United are going to push on. Now, because that one missed penalty, people think that United are going to drop out of the top 6. I've no comment on that. I really don't have any comment on that. But look, people are entitled to their opinions. People are entitled to say if they think it's freedom of speech and all that crack. Do you know, it just is what it is at the minute. Do you know, I think the fan base is divided. I don't think we're ever going to have a united fan base. Ever. Because we're in the age of social media. I think that's just the way it is. Everyone's never going to agree. Even when we win trophies, even when we get back to winning trophies and get back to winning leagues and stuff like that, this fan base is still going to be divided. I don't think that there's anything in this planet that's going to change that. But, like, look, it is what it is. Ideally for me, I'd love the fan base to be united and everyone to be on the same wavelength and try and move to get the Glazers out. Like that time with the Super League. Right? It was great to see all the fans unite. And all the fans put their differences aside. And everyone was protesting. And everyone done what was needed to make their voices heard and reach, to get the message out there that we don't want the owners of the football club. Then that kind of petered off for a couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, the focus goes from protesting. The focus goes away from the Glazers. The focus has gone back onto the manager. It just proved that some people were Glazers out for the clout more than anything. They're just gone straight to the manager. Like, you know, like, you can get Ollie out. That's fine. But this is what I'd say to you on that. David Moyes, Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Now, albeit Van Gaal and Mourinho, they won a couple of cups, right? They won a couple of cups, right? Moyes and Ollie, they didn't. What's the common theme with all four of them managers? I'll tell you what the common theme is. After every one of them managers had a decent season, well, bar the exception of Moyes, because he got sacked after 7 months. But you look at Van Gaal, Mourinho, and Ollie, right? Bar the exception of the couple of cups, and when they actually made a progress, were any of them managers backed in the following season to win a title under this ownership? No, they weren't. So, this is the thing. I can understand why people have their doubts about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as manager, and I really do understand. Sometimes I have them too, but I'm smart enough to know that getting rid of him isn't going to change a thing in terms of a manager being provided with a platform to win the title. If people think that just getting rid of Ollie is going to change the way the Glazers operate, that they're going to all give Zidane, Conte, whoever the available manager is out there right now to come into the football club. If people think that getting rid of Ollie right now in this summer, bringing in Conte or Zidane or whoever, and all of a sudden the Glazers are going to give them a war chest 250 million, 300 million to get us back to the top of the table, because that's what probably it's going to take when you consider City are going in for Harry Kane and Haaland and whoever else. Chelsea are building. They're getting another like 100 to 200 million this summer. Liverpool are already spending money. So if people think that a simple manager sacking is going to propel Man United back to the best, give your heads a wobble. Do your research. Then come back to me. Because again, people can talk about having standards. I have standards. We all have standards as Man United fans. There's having standards and then there's being realistic. You're not guaranteed success in football. You have to have all the right elements at your football club to have success at your football club. Like Tottenham Hotspur and Maurizio Pochettino was a very good manager. Daniel Levy didn't give him the tools after a Champions League final. He also went unbeaten at home for all season. And Daniel Levy didn't spend money in 2 straight years. And then Pochettino got the sack. Just having a great manager doesn't guarantee you trophies. You need everything to right. You need the board level. You need the quality. You need at board level. You need people, the board to back you. You need your owners to back you. You need the playing staff. And you also need your coaching staff. We don't have all of that at the football club. We have good players, but we don't have an unbelievable squad. Like if you look at our squad man for man at Manchester City's, it's not there yet. We have a lot of good players that can definitely get into that team. Like we've a lot of great players in terms of the likes of Bruno Fernandes, the Marcus Rashfords, the Greenwoods, the Cavani's, the Harry Maguires, all these very, very good players. But they can only bring us to a level so much. Like when you think about it, these players have brought us from 3rd to 2nd in 2 consecutive years. Domestically, we've went unbeaten away from home domestically in the league. We haven't lost an away game in the Premier League since January 2020. So when you consider all them things are moving in the right direction. See, now is the problem. Because now is the time where the owners have to provide any manager who's at this football club. Let's just take Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the man, out of this situation for a second. Let's just say Manager A, that's what we're going to name the person who's in charge right now. Manager A. Because let's say Ole left for whatever reason this summer, which is not going to happen, but let's say this, right? You look at that current playing squad right now. Any manager who's at this football club right now at this present moment needs 4 to 5 world-class players to win the league. And that's even without City or anyone else strengthening. Because them teams are going to strengthen too. But we need to invest significant funds before we're really title winners again. I think we all got a bit giddy this season when we got to top the league in January. Look, I'm first to admit, you can go back on the podcast a couple of months ago and me and Shane, everyone else who were saying 21, we're all getting giddy. But we don't have the quality. And people can say, right, that we've depth in the squad. We've a big squad. I said this last week and I'll say it again. There's a difference between having a big squad and a great squad. You can have depth, but that doesn't mean you have strength and depth. I think people really misuse that phrase. We have depth in our squad. You can have a very large squad, a very, very big squad. Doesn't mean you have a strong squad. You have a strong starting 11. Outside of that, we don't. This is where people really say, why doesn't Juan Mata play so many games? Why doesn't Donny van de Beek, right? Fair enough. He probably should have got a bit more game time this season, right? I agree. There's definitely times he could have played a couple of more games. But the people who are screaming for the likes of Amad Diallo, for the people who are screaming for the likes of other players, Alex Telles, to get more game time this season. Luke Shaw has been the best left back in world football this season. Why in God's name will we drop him for a player who's acclimatised into the league, considering where we were? Donny van de Beek was a victim of Bruno Fernandes' form this season. Bruno Fernandes broke Frank Lampard's goal scoring record this season. So there's a reason why Donny van de Beek didn't play much games this season. Now, people can say he could maybe play the number 8 role, right? But I can understand that, but we don't have the centre-backs or defensive midfielder in that position for them to cover our centre-backs. Because Victor Lindelof is a liability. There was a reason why Scott McTominay and Fred played so many games this past season. And it wasn't because, of preferential treatment. It's because, number one, the Man United's legs are gone. He couldn't sustain playing a full season. And when he did start the season, people tend to forget we conceded 3 against Brighton, 6 against Tottenham, and other games. He was very suspect. His legs were gone. Completely gone. There's a very big reason why he didn't play as many games this season. We don't have another natural number 6 to play as a sitting midfielder. That's why McTominay and Fred, I don't necessarily agree with it, but McTominay and Fred played so many games this year because we didn't have someone who can play as a sitting midfield player. They played there this season as a temporary tool to plug the gaps that are there. So people can talk about Donny van de Beek, and I understand. You probably could have played a couple more games in games where we're going to have 60-70% possession of the ball against the smaller teams. You could have got a bit more game time. I can understand that, but for people to say that he should be a starter in this team, no. Like, he was signed as an attacking midfielder. He said himself when he signed for the football club that he's a number 10. Bruno Fernandes is a better footballer than Donny van de Beek. Bruno Fernandes is a more impactful player than Donny van de Beek. So, again, and I've got on to Greg for having the Van de Beek agenda. He just thinks, we go back and forth about that, but Bruno's a better player than Donny van de Beek, and that's why Bruno Fernandes has been playing there all season, and that's why Donny hasn't. Simple as that. You look at other players such as Daniel James. You look at other players, such as Eric Bailly, Brandon Williams. These are the players who are on the bench for United week in and week out. Right? You look at other players, you look at the youth academy. They've already come up towards the end of the season. They can definitely add to the squad. They can definitely make a difference next season in terms of giving us an extra bit of quality. But if you look at Manchester United's current squad right now, I'm just going to come back to that point that I was making. They're not good enough to win the title or even challenge for the title. We don't have strength and depth. We might have depth, but there's a lot of dead wood in that depth. And that's where people misinterpret the word depth. You can have depth, but if you don't have strength in that depth that you have a lot of players, but you have a lot of average players. And that's where people really, really need to evaluate this squad and say, what's its capability? Regardless of who's manager. Because whoever comes in still has to play 60 plus games a season and have to utilise the squad. There's not enough quality to utilise that whole squad, I'm sorry. So this is where transfers need to happen. More players need to come in to add to the first team. And some of the players from that first team now who will drop to the bench can be them squad players. They've proven they've done it over a certain level, but we need more quality in the first 11. That's very important. So I felt like I just had to address this because there's a lot of people who say Ollie's mismanaged the squad. That couldn't be any further from the truth, to be quite honest. He's used that squad to a degree that to get him results. He's used that squad to a point to get him results. Because it's a results game at the end of the day. And you're a Man United manager and you're under pressure. Like, for example, if you're going out playing a congested fixture schedule and you're playing City one week, Spurs next week, and Liverpool in the middle of that week after, you're telling me you're going to start Alex Telles against Liverpool at left back? No, you're not. Are you going to start Alex Telles at left back against Tottenham Hotspur up against the Gareth Bale? No, you're not. So I think people really need to kind of, if you're going to say Ollie hasn't used his squad, what people need to do is evaluate the squad. Look who's actually in the squad outside of that first 11 and say who comes in and who plays to a similar level. Because let's really make an evaluation here. Marcus Rashford comes out, right? And he's out of that team. He's not on the left-hand side of midfield. Who comes in? Daniel James. Daniel James isn't the worst footballer in the world, right? But does he have a similar impact to what Marcus Rashford does? No, he doesn't. Now, albeit Mason Greenwood comes out on the right-hand side. Diallo could come in and make a difference. We've seen it in spurts, but not enough to say he gives us a similar level of performance to Greenwood. If you take Cavani out of the 11, Martial comes in, but Martial has been out of form this season. Do you see what I mean? Like, people can say Ollie is favourites, Ollie is mates FC, but when you actually break it down and look at the quality outside of the first 11, it isn't good enough to challenge the players in the first 11. And that's why people are calling for transfers. This is why people are calling for defensive midfield. Because you buy a defensive midfielder, not only does it give you more depth, it allows us to play what we need to play and get our players playing their best positions. And we're not shoehorning players into positions to get our best players on the pitch. You get a right winger in to make us more, fluid in attack and give us more balance in attack and get other teams thinking. You get a centre back in who's commanding beside Harry Maguire. All of a sudden, this team is a very good team then. And you get 3 to 4, 5 players. Like 3 to 5 players. You have a solid foundation to be consistent the season after. So, for me, yes, Glazers are a problem. They're a massive problem. Yes, sometimes Ollie can do better. I can admit that myself. There's times Ollie can do better. And look, I can fully admit that. There's times where he's made mistakes, but we all make mistakes. But I think you really have to say he's not the biggest problem to this football club. And people do really need to... You do really need to kind of look at the current squad and look where we are and say, we're not ready yet. We're not ready yet to kind of push forward and be where we need to be. We're not ready yet. I think this is where there's a massive, I suppose, separation from expectation and reality. Like, there's a difference between, like, I think as United fans, we all have expectations in terms of where we want to be. But I think there needs to be a separation from where we want to be and where the reality of the situation is. I think that's the only thing we can say at the minute. And it's a shame because, look, I want to be winning the league every year. Or not even so much win the league every year. I want to be challenging for it. But when you look at the current squad again and you really kind of balance it out, it just isn't there yet. And 4 to 5 signings gets his squad more balanced and would allow us to use the squad more. But again, it's just a situation where we do need to be honest with ourselves. And that's just about that. But I suppose, I think that's enough on kind of that Ollie in, Ollie out bullshit that people always tend to bring up. It just wrecks my head. This is the thing. I'm a Man United supporter. I'm not going to drive an agenda against a certain person, certain manager. I'll support whoever's in charge until the day they get sacked. That's the thing. The only ever time I'll really go against them is when Jose Mourinho made it all about himself and said his football heritage that time. And he basically threw the club under the bus in terms of that, saying, I done this, but the football club didn't do this. But if you really want to really look at it, we're far away, but we're not too far away. Recruitment this summer is important to get to that level. Like, recruitment is so important. And we really need to really nail this window. Because City are going to, City didn't win the Champions League, so they're going to want to recruit. Chelsea are going to want to recruit. We're really going to have to, this window is so important. I can't stress enough. And it's going to come to a couple of other comments, lads, because I've been just rambling on there for about 20 minutes. Rory says, yeah, Moyes' years don't count. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Rory says, and Keane talking facts. Thanks, brother. I do appreciate that. Paul says, well said. Melina also says in the comments, absolutely smash like in the video. Do subscribe to the channel. It does go a long way in terms of helping us grow and build. Jake is also in the comments today. Jake says, hey, Keane, hope you're having a great day. To be honest, Jake, I've had a very, very busy day between work, and then I literally finished work at 6:30, jumped on this stream at 7:15. I literally just sat on the couch here, laptop, all that stuff in front of me, just panned out, just kind of gathering my thoughts more than anything else before I came on the show. But yeah, Melina is an Arsenal fan. She has a comment here from me. She says, player of the season, Greenwood. Look, if you had young player of the year at Man United and you made the criteria from 23 down to 18, 19, he'd be in the conversation. But if you look at the consistency over a whole season, I think United's player of the year is Fernandes, for sure. Do I think Fernandes is definitely United's player of the season? Like 28 goals and was it 16 assists or something like that? Like, he broke Frank Lampard's record by all means. I think Greenwood done very well, exceptional the second half of the season. But I do think Bruno would have to be player of the season, 110%. Melina says, aside from the Man United talk, who do you think win the Euros? Melina, I'm gonna car park that question, because tomorrow at 8 p.m. I am going live here on Devil's Advocate with English and Scottish people, where we will be doing a whole preview over the whole European Championships, and I will be giving my winner on that show. So do tune in. Just had to give a little plug there. But yeah, I think I've kind of went on a bit about the Glazers and Ollie and all that, because look, big day tomorrow at the Supporters Trust meeting tomorrow. One thing it was asked for me to cover off today was Jadon Sancho. I know we were talking about transfers and talking about recruitment and stuff like that kind of on the show today. But a lot of reports are coming out saying United are going to make a bid before, the international, before the transfer window starts, that it's going to be wrapped up and all that before then. For me, I personally don't see the Sancho deal being wrapped up. I don't see the Sancho deal probably being wrapped up till probably end of Euros. Probably happens then. But the deal's been on the play for about a year now. So I think if it's going to be wrapped up, could be by the end of the Euros. I don't see it being wrapped up before the Euros. To be honest, I'd love to see it wrapped up before the Euros, because that shows our board to be efficient. But I just don't see it being wrapped up before the Euros. I'd love it. I'd love our club to be very efficient in this situation. Get Sancho, get the defensive midfielder in, and Bob's your uncle, Mary's your aunt type of thing. But it's not that easy with our board. Again, it all comes back to my earlier points. If anyone has experience as a Man United fan for years, they'll know our football club doesn't do business the right way. It simply doesn't. So it's not am I enabling that by saying that? No, I'm not. I just don't have high expectations to this board to do things in a timely fashion. I don't think that's being Glazers in or anything. It's just, I just know what they act like. We're all used to it at this point. So for me, it's just one of these things where we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Just one final topic I'm just going to come to tonight. It's, I suppose, when you look at this next season, a lot of the academy players seem to be look like to be getting a look in the preseason, on the preseason tour. It looks like James Garner is coming back into the first team squad. Ollie wants to evaluate him and see how his progress has been since he's come back from loan at Forest. For me, I'm kind of at a point where maybe I'd give him a look in preseason, but I think James Garner should probably go back out on loan. I'd like to see him go to Norwich or someone like that, kind of lower tier Premier League team. Give him a bit of Premier League experience next year, because I think Garner was magnificent for Forest, but again, Nottingham Forest, Manchester United, it's a very big step. Like we seen what happened with Daniel James when he came in, made an initial impact, but the jump from Swansea to United was a bit too big, too quick, too fast. So I think, yes, he had a good season in the Championship last year, but I think for me, it's probably best to maybe give him a look in the preseason, but I'd probably rather see Garner go back. If he goes back to Forest, if not Forest, then lower league, Premier League team, Brighton, Norwich, Brentford, teams like that he can definitely develop and get that bit better. Because again, if we do get a defensive midfielder in the summer, his playing time could be very limited and it could stunt his development. So I think obviously he'd probably be below McTominay in the pecking order. So I think a player like Garner, his quality does need a bit more nurturing for another 12 months. And then look, year after, if he's ready, propel him into the first team then. But I don't think he's ready just yet. I think he's going to be ready, but not just yet. And just a shout out to Owen, he does call him the Birkenhead Busquets. I do agree. He's a very good midfielder. So, yeah, look, we'll see what happens with James Garner. But yeah, in terms of... Oh, okay. Which of the return loanees would you keep at United for next season? Well, if the Trippier deal doesn't happen and we only sign 3, because there is a bit of expectation that we'll only sign 3, that's going to be centre-back, centre-fence midfielder and right winger, then I keep Ethan Laird. That was at MK Dons. Very good young right back. He's probably the only loanee I'd probably keep. There's a couple like Tai Chong and stuff like that. Probably sell them on if we can. Andres Pereira, definitely sell him. I forgot he was even on loan until I seen a report on Twitter that he's coming back. Do you know what I mean? I think the only loanee I keep for next season is Ethan Laird, and maybe provide him competition for Wan-Bissaka if we don't get Trippier. Like the only other one I keep, like if Donny left, maybe keep Lingard. But even at that, for the sake of Jesse Lingard's career, I'd rather see him leave and go to West Ham and continue that great form. Because again, he won't get much playing time with Rashford and Bruno. Obviously, the sentimental side of me says keep him because I love Lingard. But like really, for the sake of his career, he's probably better off elsewhere. Like it's great to see kind of him come back this season and really push on. And like again, any player of any bit of like decent quality, I wouldn't like to see him go on the bench. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's just one of them things. Dylan Donnelly. Jesse Lingard, a young player, plenty of time on his side. Look, I think he's only 21, 22, Dylan, is he? I think that's the common theme with United fans. Not a bad shout by Victoria's Secrets here. It actually says Tenan Mengi. Do you know what? Very good, but again, probably I'd like to see him maybe go back to Derby and loan. He was playing very well there before his injury. He's very unfortunate to get injured at that time. Like, he was really unfortunate. So I think probably send Mengi back on loan to Derby next season under Rooney. Obviously give Rooney a hand with a quality player. So look, we all know what happened after Mengi got injured. Derby County's defensive record was very shot. So yeah, maybe Mengi would be an option, but I'd probably rather see him, again, similar to Garner, get him another season in the Championship and maybe help his development a bit more. Because I feel like if he went back to the 23s for a season, it might stunt it a bit. Whereas I think the fact he's out to get a taste of first team football at Derby County in the Championship, I think it wouldn't be a bad thing to see him kind of go back to the Championship next season and kind of, help his growth then from that point, But yeah, look, I wouldn't be against him staying either. If it meant, like, obviously if Boy or hopefully Phil Jones leaves, then there's obviously a position in the squad for an extra centre back. But the likelihood of them two leaving, very low, very, very low considering Boy's contract and what sane football club signs Phil Jones with his wages and his contract. You'd want to be borderline insane to do it, but hopefully there is an insane football club out there that does think that he's the Phil Jones of 2011 and that they can sign him 10 years on from when Fergie said he could be the next Duncan Edwards, but we all know how that worked out. But I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. It's been a very good podcast for an hour. Really enjoyed it. Enjoyed seeing the comments coming in. The next podcast we are recording is tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, where I will have England and Scotland fans on, where we will be talking Euro 2020 or Euro 2021, whatever you want to call it, where we will be, I suppose, breaking down all the group stages, who are the favourites to come out of the group stages, obviously certain issues with the England squad, the Scotland squad. We'll even talk about Wales as well, because obviously there's a big issue with their managerial situation as well. And obviously, for me, I'll be on Red Watch as well, where I will be talking about Manchester United fans at Euro 2020 and which ones are likely to star and they're likely to win it. So do check that out tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, live on our YouTube channel and across our other socials as well. And also drop a like in the video and do subscribe to the Weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. We do appreciate everyone's continued support, and there's a lot more content to come over the summer, even though the football isn't on in terms of the Premier League, but we will be covering a lot of content over the European Championships and also doing transfer shows and just normal little podcasts where we come on and have conversations like we've been having tonight. So again, do check that out. And again, I really do appreciate everyone's support tonight and just continue to support this over the course of time. So thanks very much to everyone for watching. I hope you all have a good evening. I know Ireland beat Andorra today. I nearly come onto the show depressed off my head if we lost that game. Luckily we didn't, so maybe Ireland's unbeaten streak goes on. Remains to be seen. But thanks very much for everyone for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Until then, we'll see you later.